Okay, let's start. Welcome everyone to the February BI user group. We're trying out a new format in this even-numbered month called the NewsFlash, and this one is called the February NewsFlash event. And we have 3 topics lined up for tonight. We have the news, hosted by Siya. We have dynamic dashboard text and the data flows that run dry, those flashes. And just a little bit more detail on the agenda. There we go. As I said, firstly, we have the introduction. Welcome everyone. We have the news, then the flashes, firstly by Janine on dynamic dashboard text, and secondly by Anil for data flows that run dry. And then finally, we're going to give over to Sven to handle the Enterprise DNA prize, and then we're going to close. Cool. Just some Zoom etiquette real quick. If you are comfortable and have the bandwidth, please enable your video so we can see those lovely faces and mute the audio. And if you have a question, please raise your hand, and I'm sure whoever is presenting will then take the questions whenever they have time. And then if you want to get the prize, please change your Zoom name for the prize in the way that we presented here, John Doe or name and surname, as we said. And then just for anyone who missed the January event, this is our BIUG-SA format for 2023. As you can see, we're currently in the even-numbered months. And this is where we'll be looking at NewsFlashes, which is just a name we came up with because we're talking about news, and then we're going to do some BI flashes. So we're trying it out for the first time. Please hang around at the end and tell us how much you thought and what the experience was like, but we hope you like it. And then this is where we are right now, currently 23 Feb, the NewsFlash event, and the next event is going to be on the 23rd of March, exactly 1 month from now. Cool, and that is it from me. I will now hand over to Siya. Are you ready with the news?
Yes, Stefan, I am ready on my side with the news. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll stop sharing. All right.
Okay, so I will then share my screen. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Please allow.
Sven, how do I do that? I can probably make you co-host, right? I'm going to try and do that.
Go to his name and then click on the 3 dots. Yeah, but I'm going to change the meeting settings after tonight, just to get it cool, so that anyone can do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to make you a host now, Siya. I don't see the co-host capability, so we trust you.
That's a dangerous thing.
Okay, please try. Can you share now?
All right. Yes, I can see the share options, and I will bring. Okay, so this also has the option to just share. So I'll just share the window. Hopefully this is going to show up. Let me know if you can see my presentation.
Yep, yeah, got it. Thanks.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so just getting my footing now. All right, so this is the Power BI user group news and updates for the 23rd of February, which is the session that we're in. And just to share what's in the agenda for today, so we've got the intro there, which I'm going to do. And then we've got under the news section, some topics there to look at, which is export to Excel improvements for table and matrix visuals, which is now generally available. We've also got building multi-language reports for Power BI in 2023. We've got also create stunning and more accessible reports in minutes with our new color themes. And then under the update section, since there wasn't any January updates, the Power BI update started in February, so I'll also just cover some highlights in terms of the Power BI update for February. And then just in the end, some useful links in terms of sources. Okay, so just starting with the intros. So by way of introduction, for those who don't know me, my name is Siya Zungu, and I am now recently changed to tech lead for BI and data platforms at Seidor Analytics. And you can see there my email address if you need to just get in contact with me. Okay, and then starting with our first news topic for the day, which is export to Excel. This is something that has actually been around for quite some time. This was out, I think, back in November 2021, but it was a preview feature, which has now gone generally available. And what it allows you to basically do is to export your data from a matrix visual within a Power BI report and preserve the structure of what you've got in the matrix in terms of the formatting, the number formatting, and the grouping that you have in terms of the dimensions, so that you can see that cascade to see which where the sub items and subtotals fall under. So it's a cool feature, and they've now made it generally available. So if you do want to try that out, it's pretty much the same as you would do when you export data out of a visual. And then now you can just export while preserving that structure that you have in your matrix view, as opposed to just having the flat file option. Okay. Second topic of the day looks at building multi-language reports for Power BI in 2023. This is something that I found very interesting, just in terms of what this guy who covered this report did. And he covers some concepts in terms of what he used to build this report. So there is some DAX functions that he used, one of which is the use culture. And the use culture DAX function is the one that you would use in a format function. And this is something that you would find when you do, like, for instance, date formatting, and you use the format function. There's that parameter that looks for culture at the end. So that culture parameter is where you would use the use culture. And then based on the parameter that you pass in there, it will then dynamically change the report based on what you've specified. So, like, for instance, if a date format needs to be viewed as day, month, year in a certain region, but month, day, year in a different region, then that's where use culture will change that culture of the format. And there's also some demo links that I've added there. The first link is basically the link to the demo report. So there is a live report that's created that you can interact with. It's in an embedded web page, and there you'll just see, as you skip through in this side here, these are the language slicers or the language filters. As you skip through the different languages, the report also changes, the data label changes. And again, this is something that I just found quite useful if you want to see how to do multilingual reports. And then the second link basically shows you how this guy put this together. So there he goes into a video where he explains certain things about how he changed certain labels to be dynamic. And yeah, there is a little bit of work that goes into that. So, but it is something that's cool if you want to see how this was put together. Okay.
Possibly paste that links in the chat, please.
Okay, cool. I'll grab them from the presentation because now it's on presentation mode. But once it's done, I'll grab those from my presentation and just paste that in the chat.
Cool. So, quick question. I see you said ability to write measures. Is that somehow only applicable to measures, or is it DAX in general, meaning you can use it in calculated columns that has categorical outputs as well?
That is quite interesting. I actually don't know in terms of the length of how far you can go with that, but he was more talking here about data labels. And for instance, when you're using like visual objects like your slicers, and you want the titles to dynamically change. So those are things that you still need to, like, for instance, write a certain DAX measure for so that it can dynamically change. And then you can use the field parameters, which you can then specify to say, if it's this region, change it to that language, and then the DAX format will then use that. But in terms of actually using it as part of calculated columns, I'm not sure if that's something that can be done, but I can just explore that as well.
Okay, I'm just curious if you saw it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually got a project internally where we're trying to do some translations into Portuguese, Spanish, and French. And this article came around exactly at the right time, because we've been struggling a bit with it in the past. Okay, there's some stuff that's easy using tabular editor and premium capability, but then there's some stuff that's very manual, like, for instance, a page name. There is no way to change that, to translate that. But this article is very lengthy, and it's definitely worth reading through it. It explains how to solve each one of those problems, some of which don't have a solution other than manually translating the page name. But it talks about the columns, it talks about the measures. I mean, it even goes as far as talking about the content in the columns. So if it's items and it's called bicycle, I mean, some people are thinking that you want to even translate the word bicycle into French or German or whatever. That's, to me, is a bit over the top. I think the field name item should translate, but you don't need to change the actual item description into the language.
Yeah, it is quite interesting in terms of what they're doing in that space with multilingual reports. So yeah, but yeah, any improvements that come out of there, I'll also just share as we go with that.
Okay, Well, thanks.
All right. All good. All right. So the next topic is basically creating stunning and more accessible reports using the new color themes. So you'll see after the February update, there is a new section in the color themes, which is called accessibility themes or accessible themes from what I see here. And what it does is basically we still have the old themes that come with Power BI under the view tab, under the themes. And then now there's this new section for people with color blindness to actually select some of these themes that are more tailored for people with visual impairments. And these are just some of the names of those new color themes that they've added. And then just a little bit of text there about, there's about 2.2 billion people worldwide that have some form of visual impairment. And I guess this is one of the drives that, with Microsoft, they're trying to improve and also be as inclusive so that we can create reports that are accessible to most people. And having to create a report while taking into account some of the visual impaired is also something that's good, especially just making sure that, people can read the reports and understand them. But again, I personally have not yet used reports with that particular color theming. So I'd like to know for those who might have used reports with some color impairment theming, just to know how that has worked and how users have found that. But in my case, I haven't actually used it, but I'd just like to know how people are finding it, if you have used it. All right.
Speaking as somebody with a disability.
Oh, yes, Rinesh.
Those color themes do make a very huge difference. And if you can add all the additional accessibility things that are there, they do help quite a lot.
So have you actually, and I'm just asking, have you actually designed a report using or designing it in particular for people with visual impairments?
So, like I said, I am somebody who actually has a visual impairment.
Oh,
so I haven't particularly used these styles in Power BI. I'm actually somebody who can't see one in the first place. So using these color schemes and contrasts, which I know exist in how they work and what they are used for, I've used them in different applications. And platforms, and they make a huge difference towards usability and readability.
Yes. No, that's actually something that's very good to know, I guess, in terms of also having someone within the community that can give some context into that. So thank you for that, Rinesh. Okay, so with this topic, that pretty much then closes out the news section. And then now we're just going to look at the updates. So within the update section, we've had the Power BI February 2023 update and just some highlights there in terms of what was covered. There is more in terms of the updates that you can also just see from the blog post if you are interested. In this case, I'll just look at the reporting and service updates that have been done for February. One of which was highlighted is under reporting, the conditional formatting based on string fields. This one I particularly find one that is interesting, since I am someone who likes working a lot with visuals and just having to, tailor them in terms of whether you're using a measure to say if it's a 1, color it this way, if it's greater than this number, color it that way. But now you have the option to actually select specific categories to say, if I'm selling cars and I want a particular brand to show up in a particular color, then I can type in the BMW show up as, green, or Mercedes show up as this color, or whatever other items that you might have. You now have the option to use strings to allocate colors to your visuals. One thing that you just need to take note of is that it is case sensitive. So it is going to look at that word as you typed it and match it word for word in terms of how it comes up in the context of the data. So just bear in mind that it is case sensitive, and that's going to impact how it applies that color formatting. The other thing that came out of there is the enhanced row level security editor. This is also another feature that I actually found quite cool. And there basically it's, previously when we did row level security, you had to write a bit of DAX just to specify when this person comes in there, the filter applies a country equals to South Africa if you want them to just see South African data. But now there are some cool drop downs that they've introduced with this new functionality. And it is a preview feature that you need to go and enable in the preview settings. It's called Enhanced Row Level Security Editor. Once that is enabled, it then creates this drop-down style that allows you to basically select a field from a drop-down equals to, then you can specify what that field will equal to in order for the row level security to be applied. But in addition to that, you can also group certain security features that you've enabled. So maybe you said country is equals to South Africa, and you can say maybe user is equals to manager, and group the two so that they fall under one grouping, like how it shows up here. Let me just see if I can minimize this. Sorry, I wasn't sure if that was maybe blocking what was shown here, but you can group certain conditions so that they all are part of one group, and you can apply them with an either and or an or, meaning and both conditions need to apply. The user is in South Africa and the user is a manager, and then it would apply both. Or you can use an or function where the user is in South Africa or a manager, and it would switch between the two. And you can also then see the DAX function that it writes if you just want to see what it creates when you are selecting these dropdowns. You do have a switch view there that switches to the editor view that shows you the DAX that it writes as it creates these parameters for you. So that's also another cool feature there. And then just last thing that was covered in the service is the new get data experience in Power BI service. So they've now they've now updated the get data function from the old way that it used to be, where you would see kind of those yellow boxes at the bottom that basically show you whether you're wanting to get data from like your local machine or you want to pick it from the web and so forth. And they've now aligned it to how they've been doing with the Power BI desktop application. But it does have a little bit of a twist in terms of how it looks in the service than it does in Power BI. So now you do have a new get data experience where you can create data sets within the workspace. And then from there, you can even have like an auto-generated report from the data that you are importing into the service, or you can just import the data set and still create your visuals based on the fields that are coming through from your data set. So that's also another cool update that they did there, and also just keeping consistency in the product. So that's quite cool. And then lastly, this is not something I had in the agenda, but it's just an announcement to make to the group. There is the Power BI Summit that's coming up, and thanks to Rian for sending this through to me. That is from the 6th to the 10th of March. And I think there's something like about 130 sessions that will be held between these days. So registration is still currently open. But the timer, the last time I checked, I think it says there's still about 10 days that you can still use to register. So if you're interested in checking out the Power BI Summit, that's also something that's going to be taking place between the 6th and 10th of March. And I can also just share the link with you guys on the chat if you just want to know more about that. And then the last bit of today is just basically the useful links. But like I said, I will share these useful links for those of you that are interested in terms of seeing some of the content and where it was sourced from, so that you can also just have a look at that. And then also I'll upload the Power BI Summit link so that if you want to register for that, you can go ahead and you can go ahead and register for that. Yo, my voice is leaving. And with that, that brings me to the end of the news section. Sorry.
Awesome. Thanks, yeah. I really appreciate it. I am very excited about conditional formatting on strings. That is something that I've hacked it so many times. Just having it built in is going to be brilliant. The best. Because yeah, you had to, like in the past, convert your items into like numbers so that you can say if it's a number between this and this, then color it this way and use certain IDs and be smart with it. But now that you can do it directly with text, I also think that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to find useful. Yeah, no, definitely. It's going to be super useful. Oh, and also congrats on the promotion, dude. See, tech lead is amazing. Oh, nice. Thank you. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. Well, are there any other questions? I see Anil is asking whether Entelect will be representing at the summit, Rian. What do you know about that?
No, I don't know anything about that. I actually only saw the email yesterday. quite funnily saying last chance to register, but it's the first time I got an email. So yeah, but I don't know of any plans for us to represent or so.
Okay, cool. That's how you
I think
get
it's a
people to
global
change it.
summit. I think it's a global summit actually in many different geographies. And so Reza Rad in New Zealand, he's been sort of talking about it and blogging about it. But yeah, it's I'm not sure the exact format for it. But in fact, do you mind if I just mention something now I was going to mention later on, but I'll just mention it quickly. Those who were at the January event, we did talk about the Global Power Platform Bootcamp. I always have to think carefully when I get that name, when I say that name. It was supposed to be on the 24th of February, meaning tomorrow, and Saturday, and then they postponed it. Microsoft postponed it. So it is a global event, but they're having sessions in different cities. And the chaps at Ukuvuma, who are the Power Apps user group leaders, they have basically said they're going to organize that, the South African one, and that is on the 20. Let me get this exact date here. I said I would mention it to everyone tonight. That is on. Sorry, suddenly this note doesn't have the date in it. It is the 25th, Saturday, the 25th of March. Okay. If you would like to find out more information, let me know. I can forward you on the email from Ukuvuma, including if you would like to present. So they basically said submit a proposal to speak. Some examples would be best practices for building Power Apps and Power Automate flows. So obviously it's Power Platform, so it can be any of the various aspects. Tips and tricks for integrating the Power Platform with other Microsoft services. Real world use cases for Power Platform. So I'm actually going to present on that one. An introduction to Power BI and data analysis. Obviously, that's something that this user group is more familiar with. So if you would like to, you have to submit by the 3rd of March. That's Friday next week, if you want to present. So just get hold of me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and you can just send me a note. Okay. There it is. Okay, back to you, Stefan.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, so next up on the agenda is Janine's session. Janine, are you ready to go? You have to unmute before you're ready.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
And Janine, before you start, sorry, me interrupting one more time. For the prize for this evening, it is going to come down to a fastest response first from the audience in relation to a question that I'm going to ask that's going to come from either of these two BI flashes. Okay, so either Anil's or Janine's BI flash, I'm going to come up with a question, and the fastest person to answer will win the prize at the end of the evening.
Awesome. Thanks for reminding me, Sven. I was supposed to say that, but thank you. I forgot. Cool. Janine, go for it.
Cool. It says host disabled.
Siya, you're the host now, please.
Oh, sorry, I passed the baton back to Sven after I was done.
Okay.
So Sven, can you please share that with, yeah.
All right, I was on mute, but I've already pushed the buttons. So Janine, you are now the host.
Cool. Hey, can you guys see my screen? Sorry, I'm not very familiar with Zoom.
I can't
I
see your
can't see
screen
any
yet.
screen yet.
You can't. Oops. Okay.
Happened to me on Zoom earlier. Here we go. You can see now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Just trying to get your guys' faces up because I hate talking to the four walls in the study. Cool, guys. So mine is a very beginner level presentation. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys recognize this. I did this presentation, this dashboard presentation last year. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm just using the same data sets because they already exist. Cool. So my presentation is about, I didn't put slides together because I'm limited to 5 minutes and I was worried slides would make it a bit longer. So I'm going to just jump in. So my talk is on dynamic text. I'm going to stick a slicer, or let's just put a bar chart with all our movies down, and we can see maybe the max box office, and we've got all our movies listed. So this was the presentation I did last year, was just, made it fun with DC versus Marvel. So we had a bit of a challenge with regards to changing text. So like, let's say we start with a KPI and you want to give like more information on it. So let's say, for example, we're going to stick the movie name in. We've got that as the heading. So there's multiple ways that you can create the heading. You can do it using your KPI cards, or else you can also use a text box. So text box as follows. You could just add a value that is the movie. Sorry, add a value. What am I doing wrong here? So it's name. Let's see. So now we've got Ant-Man here, but Ant-Man hasn't even been selected. Obviously, as you're selecting things, then it changes, but if you deselect, it goes to the very first movie. So one way that you can change these descriptions is that you can create a new measure. So I've created a new measure here called title message. So what I do is I say, if the filter is selected, we select the movie. Otherwise, we just put in a heading of Marvel versus DC. So now pulling that in to either spot. Sorry, let's just remove this. This is first movie. Yeah. So we have a nice heading, and then as you click, we can change the headings. So that's how you get around doing some of the dynamic text. But then I went a little bit further because I wanted to get the description of the movie, the overview of the movie, and so on. So I stumbled upon this really cool visual. I hope I'm sharing. Let's see where it is. Called an HTML viewer. I don't know if you guys have ever used the HTML viewer before. So if you're a developer in your past life, you would have done a lot of HTML code. So stumbled upon this HTML content widget visual that is so cool, because you can bring it into your board and you can add your messages as well. Sorry, values here. And same thing, you can do some clever logic and it can change. Now, if you want to get fancy and do extensive things, the cool thing about this HTML content thing is that you can actually code a whole HTML page. So just before the session, what I did is I just spun up some quick HTML code. So, if we haven't got a movie selected, we've got this text. If we do have a movie selected, then it will jump into this text. I'm just going to drag this in so that you guys can see what it does. Okay, so if we click on, for example, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is an amazing movie with ratings of 6.9. You can play around with different HTML code, put in emojis, put in colors, add whatever you feel that HTML allows you to do. So I'll just dive back into there. So what I've done is I've wrapped, so we've got a description, but you can wrap your text in bold, you can wrap it in, you can add your line breaks, your HTML line breaks, you can add headings, you can add colors, your style of colors, and so on. So you can, as long as you know a bit of HTML, you can code to as much as your heart desires. I did try adding in the trailers of the movies as well. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't work very well with Power BI, and after doing some research, the advice is that you should download videos put them into a storage account, and then view the videos. So videos and things don't work so well online. But yeah, so that's just what I wanted to show you, is that you can code HTML code to your heart's content using this HTML viewer. And that's it. Any questions?
Just opened my mind, Janine. This is amazing. It makes sense that it's possible. It's obvious now, but that's really cool. Really cool way of using HTML.
Yeah, I was just struggling with a project where I needed dynamic text, and it wasn't just a heading, which you could do in a KPI. It was literally like big chunks of text. So stumbling across this HTML content widget was, yeah, pretty useful.
I see that you're hard coding colors in there. Could you somehow reference the colors in the theme instead of coding them in?
Yeah, same thing. You could just use your, exactly like you would if you had your HTML code anywhere else. You can, if you've got a, I think it did have a color. Oh no, it didn't. Thought I had a color widget movie. Category. I was making a category color earlier. I wish I'd seen this new update. That would have been very helpful, but I had coded a color thing earlier. But yeah, I wanted to start with a clean slate, so just, and didn't save any of my changes and closed Power BI without it.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Are there any other questions from someone in the audience?
Yes, just
cool. Yeah.
I remember there's the dynamic text or so that comes with the text box or something. Janine, was that not good enough? And did you like the fact that there was just so much extra customization options here?
Yeah, what I needed it for is I wanted to put in, so what I actually use it for, the project I use it for, unfortunately, it's got PR information on it. So I couldn't show that, but the text needed to be dynamic for each user that you were showing, and there were recommendations on, so it was an employee portal thing, and it would show the employee which employees are struggling, what advice you can give them based on certain factors in the data. If they're unhappy with salaries, link them to how salaries are structured. If they're unhappy about their team, link them to rotations or that kind of thing. So yeah, so there was a lot of linking to different pages within the intranet. There was, and I just thought adding the colors and so on was quite a nice touch. So having this as a big blurb, finding the HTML just helped a lot.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if, because obviously Microsoft is going to try and integrate ChatGPT in here somehow. They jumped the gun quite a bit with Bing, but yeah, it would be interesting to see. Maybe soon you could just ask ChatGPT to, explain what's happening here. I know there's the explain feature already, but I've never really found that useful. So it could be quite amazing in future.
Yeah, for sure. So that's me, short and sweet.
Awesome, thank you, Janine. That's really cool. Yeah, there's some messages in the chat. Tian said that there's another visual you can try, Enlighten Data Story. That's pretty much does the same thing, I imagine. And then Adrian also mentioned dynamic titles, but not at the HTML level. This is really cool. I agree, it is really cool. So it's getting a bit darker, so I'm just going to activate my secondary light here. Can you see me properly now?
Yes.
Cool, but now we're going to go over to Anil's section. So keep your ears pricked for that question. And I'm going to start sharing. Anil, just checking, you're not perhaps close to Wi-Fi and you want to do the talk, or shall I share it from Microsoft Streams?
Yeah, please go ahead and share it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I'm on mobile data at the moment.
Okay, dude, no worries. Okay, cool. Janine, could you hand over admin to me, as please, or host rights to me?
Okay, I was really hoping there wasn't going to be something that I needed to do. How exactly do I do that?
You go to participants and then just find me and hit the 3 dots next to my name and make host, please.
Oh, make host.
Then I should be able to
Thank you.
share. Cool. All right, so I should be able to share screen, the whole thing. There we go. Okay, back to PowerPoint. Cool. So I'm just gonna go over to my Firefox browser, and this is the one that Anil has sent to me. Cool. So can everyone see this Microsoft Stream site? Okay, let me play. Hang on. You tell me if you can hear the audio, Rian.
No, can't hear any.
Can't hear the audio. Okay.
You might need to share with sound.
Right, that's when you start sharing, right? New share screen. There we go, share sound. Okay, try again.
Try. And if you're not familiar with the acronym, it means do not repeat
Yes.
yourself. First and foremost, I must apologize for the recording.
I'm gonna start from scratch.
Hi everybody, and welcome to my BI Flash talk. And in today's BI Flash, we'll be chatting about data flows that run dry. And if you're not familiar with the acronym, it means do not repeat yourself. First and foremost, I must apologize for the recording. The power went out at Entelect HQ due to load shedding. However, the generators didn't kick in and the internet died. So yeah, here I am. Cool, let's get started. So what's to come? We'll chat about data flows. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but we'll just cover them briefly. Then we'll chat about the data flows use case, in this case, data flows that run dry, and we'll chat about the implementation as well. And then we'll just, I'll share some thoughts on it. Cool, so what are data flows? Data flows are essentially a self-service data preparations tool or solution. The main appeal to it is the reusable transformation logic, which I love about it. And essentially, it's a single source of truth for any downstream users. What I like the most about it is it provides that layer of abstraction, so preventing direct access to your underlying data sources. It's got some cool features. So the one thing is linked and computed entities, which I'll chat about in a bit, and then direct query and incremental refresh. Yeah, I haven't implemented incremental refresh, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's cool. Cool. So data flows that run dry. So here's the original use case. We had a data set which had several issues. It had long refresh times when it did succeed, and that was often in the range of 3 to 3.5 hours. More often than not, when it did fail, it failed badly by exceeding the memory capacity in the service, and also CPU as well. It was really bad. So the idea was to switch to data flows, and we split these data flows up by year, and it solved the original issue. However, we had a lot of repeated code, and obviously that is a nightmare to maintain. So the solution was to break it up into 3 sort of distinct parts. The first one was to create a base query data flow, which is parameterized with start and end date, which I'll show in a second. And we split this up into DB queries and M queries. Then we reference the base query data flow. We can call this a sub data flow that reference the base query data flow. And then we did whatever transformations there that was defined earlier. And then we union these data flows, these sub data flows, into one. And then that data flow is referenced into a data set. But how, you must be asking? Well, enough blah blah. Let me show you some code. Cool. So here's my data set. I know it's only
Okay, it looks like the stream paused.
Was that me?
Anil, did you stop
I
recording?
think it
halfway
stops
through?
there, so.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I'll try and recall from memory, but basically I had 3 rows of data with years like 2012, 2013, and 2014. And then I went on to show like the three separate data flows or sets of data flows. So the base query data flow with the parameterized DB and M queries. So the DB query just had like a start and end date. And then the M query just had a little transformation step where we did a find and replace. Very simple, but like if you wanted to go more hardcore, then yeah, whatever your use case needs. And then yeah, following that, then I showed the sub data flow. So for example, I focused on 2012, and I had parameters in that data flow for start date and end date. Then I pulled in or referenced the base query data flows for the M query and the DB query. I substituted where appropriate for the start date and end date. And then finally, I pulled in the data for that start date and end date. And then that would be my data flow for 2012. And then it's just rinse and repeat for the remaining years. So 2012, 2013, and 2014. Then finally, I'd go ahead and create the master data flow, which essentially references the sub data flows, union those guys together, and then that would be my master data flow. Yeah, you would have seen in the video, I'm not sure why it stopped there, but you would have seen that I created linked entities, and that linked entity combined together to give you that that master data flow. The interesting thing is that you do require a Power BI premium for you to refresh linked entities. If not, then Microsoft makes you know about it. Like it's basically shoves it in your face that you need premium to use these features. Yeah, and then I just shared some thoughts. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, there was a point where we execute the parameterize or the filled in M query and DB queries. Yeah, that I'll try and record the full session. I'm not sure why it stopped that way. Anyway, I shared some thoughts. So yeah, it works, which is great. The only thing is if you have data that changes, so let's say your 2012 data changes, then it's not ideal. But if you have like a running set of data, so let's say for this year, yeah, you'd want to change it or refresh it. And then the only admin intensive part of it is creating the next year's data flow. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. Also, I had some thoughts on like best practices. Are there best practices really being implemented? There's definitely room for improvement. That much I can tell you. But yeah. Oh, and then the last thing, there was this weird duplicate issue on the data flow. So we looked at the data, we could not identify any duplicates, but the data flow insisted that there was. So we manually had to insert that step in the M query to remove duplicates, air quotes. But yeah, that is my talk. This is such a weird format, half video, half live. Yeah, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, if you have any questions, yeah, let me know. I will try and post the full video, just explaining everything. And yeah, any questions?
I do have a question. Yeah, you said it went from it ran successfully. So, and the refresh time was 3.5 hours at some point. So when you implemented these dry work data flows, what was the refresh time usually then?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So it actually went from 3.5 hours to about half an hour. It was pretty good. And yeah, I forgot to mention at the bank, we made the top 10 list, but not the top 10 list that you want to be part of. This top 10 list was for people who were exceeding the memory capacity of the Standard Bank tenant. Yeah, we were like maybe second or third. So yeah.
Did you get an email from Vickers saying, please stop?
Yeah, several times.
We've also received an email like that. It's part of the job. Awesome, cool. Are there any other questions for Anil? I know I'm trying to piece it together.
I got one.
Go for it, John.
So Anil, this incremental refresh and data flows is an awesome combination. You mentioned that you just have to remember that you need to go and create these data flows for every year. So we had similar issues with that when we used partitioning on SQL. You always have to remember to create the partition for the next year, otherwise you're in a world of hurt. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is, would it be possible to create like 5 additional data flows and future date them? So they run every night, but they're going to repeat, or they're going to complete very quickly because there's obviously no data until it becomes relevant. Would that be possible? Would there be a catch to that as well?
That's an excellent question. You know, our backend is a Hive database, and I'm pretty sure it would run super quick. Although I do wonder, because the partitions for the future dates probably haven't been created, so Hive might give you a bit of flack for that. But in principle, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it essentially just gives you that good buffer. So 5 years down the line, then somebody will wake up like, oh, okay, we need to add 5 more years to this.
Actually, you thought of a way around that now while you're speaking, because it's true, your infrastructure at data source might give you a failure, but there is a way that you can do conditions in M, where you can base that on a date, and if the date is in the future, you can skip the whole portion of M, so it executes it without going into the actual execution of the database query.
Ah, that's smart, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are there any other questions? Cool. I think that's it then. Thank you, Anil. Getting through all of that and still doing a pretty decent presentation. Well done, congrats, and thank you for the efforts, going the extra mile. And I guess now we're moving over to Sven for the prize and the question. Am I right, Sven? I saw you on mute just now.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Hopefully you can hear me, because I'm also having bad connection here and it keeps going up and down. Can everyone hear me?
Good. Yeah,
Okay.
Loud and clear.
All right, tremendous. Well, the last agenda item is the prize. Reminder to those who are, well, reminder for everyone who's been here before, and for those who are new, it's worth $500. It's a video set of training material from Enterprise DNA. The only request is that they ask that if you win the prize, that you then become you are active in that program. So don't just win the prize and then never use the videos or never watch them or work through it. That is actually quite important. So if it is that you've got a big deadline over the next few months and you're unlikely to watch the videos, then if I may ask you not to respond to this question, or if you happen to win it, then just graciously decline so that someone else can win it, who can make use of it. All right, so with that introduction done, I've already typed up the question. So in a few seconds, I'm going to hit enter on the chat. So get the chat window ready, put it up in front of you so that you can see it. And you're going to need to read the question, and then the fastest reader and typist will win the prize. It's an easy question, so you've got to be fast.
Sven, are we going to go for the person who makes the first response in the chat? Not the first person to raise their hand. Okay,
correct.
Cool.
Okay, so you need to, the person needs to type the answer and hit enter, and then I'm going to watch and find the first correct answer, and that person will win the prize. It is easy, so you have to read and type fast. Okay. You will also just see in there that I've said the short name is fine, so you don't have to write the whole long name out. The short name is fine. You will know what I mean when I hit enter. Okay. Enough of all the hype. You guys ready? Ready, steady, go.
Woohoo. I typed out my answer, but I didn't hit send.
Yeah, well, you have to send it to win it.
I've already won the Enterprise DNA prize before.
That's right. Sure. I can actually tell you that it's second overall. There's another movie that's beaten it.
Yeah. So apparently the new Avatar movie is now the top grossing film, right?
No, not yet.
The first Avatar movie.
The first one jumped above the one I'm looking for now, because the one I'm looking for is a Marvel movie. But the first Avatar is above it. When I last checked, Avatar 2 is in 4th position. I hope I'm not wrong. Maybe it's 5th. Yeah. No one going to answer this? Sure. Then that shows people were watching the presentation, but not looking at the answers. Okay. Daryl G, the Godfather. I'm afraid. Okay, there we go. Josh Raylan, Avengers Endgame. Okay. Right. Well done, Josh. I'm going to put my email address in there again. Please just email me, and I will put you in touch with Enterprise DNA.
Thanks, will do.
Okay, so bad line. Did you say you can do that?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, load shedding at the moment, so.
Okay. All right.
So
brilliant.
I had to open up again because I wasn't even sure what the movie was.
Aha. Well, sometimes we do reports for people and we don't actually look at their data, possibly because, it's like, it's classified information. So, how are they doing? Are they profitable? Are they not? And so in this case, Janine, you did the whole thing without looking at the data, which I can completely understand how that happens. But
no, it wasn't that. I did the presentation I did a presentation last year, and I used this dashboard in the presentation. So for today, instead of going and hacking a whole new presentation with data and stuff, I just reused what I used last year. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well, it's going to take a while. But yeah, Endgame is definitely the first one at the top of the Marvel and DC comics list. And then the next one is Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man, number 3, the one that came out November 2021. All right, anyway, cool. So well done to Josh. You're going to just email me and then you're going to get the prize. Well done.
Awesome. Well, that's everything on the agenda, guys. Congratulations, Josh. I hope to see you on the Enterprise DNA platform. We should keep each other accountable and join one of those sessions together. Rian, you have a hand up. I was about to ask if there are any additional announcements. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know if we have a speaker yet for our March event, which is in exactly 4 weeks. Yeah, we actually don't have anyone at all. So yeah, we definitely need a volunteer there. So anyone that would like to speak at our next event.
Yeah, that is a very good point. We're looking for some brave individuals who would like to have their voices heard.
It's not as scary as you think, people.
Has deployment pipelines been discussed in this forum?
A while ago, yes, but there's always time for a repeat on that session and on that topic.
Okay, I'm tempted to say yes, so I'll say yes.
Awesome. Deployment pipelines it's a really cool feature. They're actually bringing it into Power Apps as well. I think it's an experimental feature for now, and it's being rolled out sometime soon. I'm so excited for that because it's absolute pain deploying Power Apps when you're used to doing it easily in Power BI.
Rian and Stefan, when we were talking about this odd month, even month story, we had said that the odd month would also talk about a topic raised in the even month, if I'm not mistaken. So are we going to do that as the second discussion? It's more of the hands-on piece. So these user group events are on the odd months are going to be a presentation, and then sort of the second half is going to be sort of a group discussion. What do you guys think of this new feature? And it's not just new features in general, it's a particular chosen feature. And the idea is people are going to work on that new feature between now and next event, and then say, you know, I actually tried it out, I liked it, or I got stuck here, or, you know, I actually think it's been released too early, it's a bit too simple, you know, that kind of story. So if there's someone who wants to recommend a topic, otherwise there was a topic that I had in mind, because it came out last year. A few times they've sort of made enhancements to it. It's called formatted tables. And to be honest, I'm so unimpressed with it. I can't see a need for it at all. It's so basic that I thought maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe other people use it and I haven't figured out why it's important. So one topic that we could all sort of think about and reflect over the next month and then give feedback on would be formatted tables in the Power BI service, which basically is just it's a very watered down version of a paginated report. So I don't know if you want to do that, because that topic can then also lead to some of the new features, which is this Excel connected tables, which is a really lovely thing. It's not formatted, but it's a live connection. So we can, you know, the topic can extend, is what I'm really trying to say.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if we send out an announcement at the end, even if it's on Meetup or when we make the new event. And we just send out a reminder and maybe a link to some documentation, because I know Microsoft always has like a default data set you can download, a demo data set. See, I just posted a link as well to the one for, what was it, the language one, the translating tool.
Yes.
So if there's something like that available for people to play around with, that'd be great. And we can try it out like that. What do you think?
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, just, are there any other people who want to raise a feature as the suggested topic to workshop next time around?
I wonder if, Siya, did you come across anything interesting in your news scraping during the preparation?
There was a bit that I picked up for the data mods. So they are also just improving on that, and they also have like a roadmap in terms of some of the features that are going to be rolled out throughout the year. So I think that will also be an interesting one.
Okay. So we've got formatted tables, and then data mods. Yeah, that's actually something that I'd like to get into. I know Anil did a quick session on it. Was it 2-3 user groups ago? So that would be really, really fun to get our hands dirty on it as well. So, do you know if there's any nice demo databases, demo Power BI files for that available in the documentation?
For data mods?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about demos, because that would have to be set up in the workspace specifically. Service. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would actually give a workspace access to people just getting in there. But I think it probably would be a good one where we can build upon it and see it for ourselves. But the documentation has basically highlighted that they're going to have a drive in 2023 in improving some of the features that come with that.
Cool. Okay, so we'll send an announcement, I think, then either sometime soon, just for the topics and some links to some documentation. And then if you guys have time, it'd be great if you could prep for that a little bit, go fiddle around it, click around it, or leave documentation, come with something to discuss, and then we can figure it out together as a user group. That's the whole idea, get some real collaboration going. But we are 3 minutes over time already. So if you need to drop off, that's fine. And I think it's about time we start wrapping up. Thanks everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. And let us know what you guys thought of the new format, the NewsFlash format on the second month.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.